This episode of Filthy Casuals is brought to you by HelloFresh. Use the code CASUALS to get 50% off your first 2 boxes today.
This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by 3 very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you for joining us for another week. My name is Tommy Dasilo, and as always...
My name is Ben Vanel, and it's a slightly later and slightly different recording time than usual.
Well, but slightly earlier as well.
What?
Excuse me?
It's all things.
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing it
Time
later.
is a flat circle.
Oh,
Yeah.
hell, man.
This
That's
is
a really cool
happening-
thing that's going to get less interesting in its second series that you just said.
That's coming back, by the way.
True
after
Detective.
2 years off.
Yeah, after they fucked it in the second season.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, what do you got for us?
Episode 1, 2, 3. Adam, what do you see?
Oh, my God. A man floundering for no reason.
I wasn't going to do it this episode.
But
Why?
E is still just the easiest sound to rhyme.
Yeah.
Tree.
Mate.
3. You already used that one.
Did
Me.
I not rhyme? I believe I did.
He did rhyme.
Yeah, but if the Beatles are going like, I want to hold your hand.
Yeah.
No, we got there in the end. We're a good band.
Yeah.
Bandit did rhyme!
Yes. Because the Beatles improvised everything at the start of their podcast.
Yes. Can we have a suggestion? Oh, I heard the beach.
Austin Powers was in the
Yeah,
Beatles.
Adam Knox is here as well.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Cool.
It's like the Monday before this comes out. So we're
Yes.
recording this a little because of time
Constraints.
restrictions. So if there's any news that's come out during the week, hey, it's a normal episode and we've missed it.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
And boy, you know what? Even if we weren't recording this early, we are just floundering through a big old month of nothing.
Yes.
We should have branded this whole the Filthy Casuals month of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, there's like Metal Gear Survive came out and I want to play that. It doesn't seem like it's good, but I want to try it. But
That's an interesting story, I think. Obviously, all the Kojima stuff.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
It will be interesting when we've played it.
when it
Yes.
shows up in the post.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you've ordered it from an online retailer that is like overseas or something. It
Yeah.
seems like this thing is taking 6 to 8 weeks to
It
get
is.
itself to
It
you.
is on the back of a mule in Tibet right now.
Nice.
And it will be here when the crow strikes 3 or some mythical when the
you
jade
had
monkey.
a go at me
Yeah,
for not being able to do a rhyme. That was just a sentence, man.
it's like a mythical. If it would, it doesn't matter.
And same thing, undone by the number 3.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Very
Hey,
true.
3 in the thing that you said, 3 in the thing that Adam said, 3 people that host this
Right
podcast.
now, it's happening again.
Hey,
The third
alright.
time it's happening that someone is for no reason setting themselves up into a position where they can't think of. Yeah, there's not a lot of games out at the moment. But there's a lot of people out there who listen to this
Yes.
podcast
Yes.
who have sent us some questions, and we're going to field a couple.
Yeah. More than a couple. Maybe 3.
I reckon we might.
fucking nailed
Oh,
that
it's-
one.
we're back. We've taken control over that
Yes.
monstrous number.
Yes. Broken the curse.
But yeah, we did a bit of soliciting on the Facebook page, and we also
Yep.
had a few emails that have been sitting there just clogging up that storage for
Yeah.
a long time.
I mean,
so-
honestly, we were waiting for a rainy day when we needed some material.
And when it rains, it pours.
yes.
It is bucketing right now.
Yeah.
So we'll, this is good. We've finally got a, spare block of time on the calendar.
Yep.
Not much going on games-wise where we can answer these emails.
Yes.
We'll get through all of them. And then next week, we'll be fucked again in the exact
Yes.
same position.
Yeah, we'll
with
have
once again nothing to talk about.
no backup plan
No
either.
backup.
Yeah.
What are we going to
Probably-
do next week?
I'll probably end up playing San Andreas by then. I'm
Yes.
Yeah.
playing Vice City at the moment, and I'm
Yes.
going to go through those PS2 GTA games.
Yeah. I actually, before we get to the questions, I have played a game that I at least hadn't played before.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's not a new game, but it is a game that I'm liking so far, Yakuza 0.
Yes.
Which I think we all kind of saw when it's because this is a remaster kind of reboot thing to get people into the series before 6 comes out.
Now, I've never played Yakuza -1, so am I still going to be able to enjoy this?
Yakuza 0, and I
Yes.
believe it's pronounced Yakuza. Okay.
I believe it's pronounced yakety sax.
Oh, hell yeah.
It is a new game from last year,
Right.
or like from the year before in Japan, but it's set before all the other ones.
Right.
And then they did remaster 1 and 2, and those are the
Right, okay.
Kiwami ones.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of us have any experience with this series.
No, I was really
believe.
interested in
Yeah.
this when it came out, but it just came out when so much other shit
Yeah.
was...
Yeah.
Like, this was right around that heavy Zelda, everything, and then Persona 5 took over my life for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And then 6 is coming out soon?
In
Yes.
March.
Right, okay.
Or
Yeah.
maybe later. I think it might have gotten delayed.
right. This.
So you've only got 5 more to get through before then.
Yeah, fuck. You bring up Persona 5, and that is a game I thought of instantly when I started playing this because it's set in Tokyo, and it's incredibly well realized. It feels like Tokyo in a way that Persona 5 didn't, or in a different way than Persona
Yep.
5 did, I guess I should say. Persona 5 was kind of like this really minimal, packed down version of Tokyo that still conveyed it perfectly, I feel like.
Yeah, there's big kind of like ends of streets that you just physically cannot go down.
Totally.
Which, look, for anyone who hasn't been there, not to out myself as a real jet setter here,
Yes.
that's not the case in the real Tokyo.
Yes.
If you see a street, you can just walk down it.
Wow, now that is
Yeah.
a sort of local knowledge that you only get from someone who's truly been to a place. You can read all the books you want.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to pull you up on that. Some of them were no through roads.
Yeah. You can still walk down them.
That's true. You just button up against a brick
Yeah,
wall.
you're not blocked by an invisible hand.
That's true.
Or
that's
a cat
true.
going, go the other way instead.
Yes.
Let's go to sleep.
It's 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but that road's pretty long.
Yeah.
Fucking let's go to sleep.
And you worked for 3 hours at that florist.
Yeah.
So you
And-
must be bushed.
And to be fair, we're going to take on a bad guy in about a week and a half time. So probably
Yes.
good for you to get some sleep while
Yes.
you can.
Have a bit of rest. Put this dumb contraption on your face, and you'll be able to eventually sleep.
Nah, time for some rest. And oh, by the way, in your dreams, you get fucking harassed by this weird goblin cunt who's
Yes.
like got you locked in a cell.
Why are you
Yeah.
so tired all the time? Yakuza 0 as well, though. Like Persona 5 set modern day. Yakuza 0, 80s Japan.
Yeah.
Which is fucking cool ass Japan as
I
well.
believe
as
that's when
episode.
you and I first went.
Yeah, yes. It feels like long ago now. But no, Tokyo in Yakuza 0 is much more realistic. It's bigger scale. You can look down the streets and you can see. It's not like stylized in like the visual way that Persona 5 was either. It's almost, a realistic depiction.
Right.
And it's fucking great. I'm only like an hour or 2 in. Like I've just played the start, the prologue, and I'm starting to get more abilities, and I'm still, I think, in the tutorial phase.
Right.
Yeah.
But mamma mia, I'm loving it. Like it's so cool. It has this great over the
That famous Japanese phrase, Mamma Mia. Well, I guess it is. Mario is the most famous Mamma Mia person.
bro.
Oh, that's a good point. So is Italian culture now Japanese culture by virtue
Yeah.
of the fact that one of their most famous characters is an Italian?
Yes.
Does Italy only exist within the mind of Japan?
They both have
Ooh.
similar shapes, the countries, sort of.
Yes, you're
They
right.
do.
You
They-
are
they're
right.
the long
Yeah.
sort of curve.
Yes. Yes. The
the
Japan.
second boot.
Yeah.
2 shoes.
It's a big guy squatting over the world. God, I believe he's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, Japan and Italy famously allied.
I think it was Axis, but anyway.
Depends on your perspective.
The thing I like about this as well, just purely in the title, I fucking love a thing called Zero
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
as a prologue.
Yes.
That's really cool to me. And so you don't need any context from the rest of the games for this one.
No, not at all. Not at
'cause,
all.
well, it's before them.
Yeah, yeah. It would be strange if you did.
So what's the sort of setup of the story that you've seen?
You're a dude who's in the Yakuza.
Yakuza.
Your name is not Zero. You have a name. It's a Japanese name,
Yeah.
not Italian. It's not Mario, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're like a middle tier guy in the Japanese mafia, and you're also working on the side for some loan shark guys, and you're like doing their heavy work. And you beat up a guy, and then you find out the guy, he dead, and you've been framed.
Oh.
And so all your upper level guys are like, kind of, getting down on you, and you're like, bro, I didn't do it. I don't know what's going on. And so you're clearly getting involved in some kind of political machination within the Japanese mafia.
Right.
And you're also singing karaoke.
Right.
And beating people up on the street. And there's like a crazy old guy who's trying to get you to like fight in some underground boxing ring. And you're, doing a whole bunch of different stuff already. And it's all really fun. Like,
Is it linear? Like, are you doing all these things in a set order, or is it kind of open and you can like do the karaoke or the boxing like whenever? Are they like side questy things, or?
I believe it's going to open up. I believe that is the gameplay loop of this game is like you'll try a bunch of stuff and then it'll all open up and you can do it in whatever order you like. Sort of like Persona, I guess.
It's not like Grand Theft Auto style massive city though. Walk anywhere. It's more segmented than that. I think.
Believe so. And again, I'm still just at the start.
Yeah.
And it has been very much like follow this guy while the story unfolds around you, and you get to do some things like the karaoke bits, like with your mate who's kind of talking to you about this stuff that's going on that's relevant to the story.
Boring. Let's go do some karaoke.
Yeah. But it feels like it's going to be that kind of game. Like you're going to be doing this story stuff and then it's like boring story. Let's go and fucking do some weird
shit
mini game kind of thing.
Yeah, cool.
Which is, I believe, what the rest of the games are like as well.
It sounds, I've sort of been aware of this series for a while. I think, probably when this one came out, made me kind of look up the series and go, fuck, this looks really cool. Why have I never played this before? But
Totally.
like exactly what you were saying, Adam, it just was impossible to fit anything in.
Yeah.
And we were talking about maybe doing, here's a bit of a behind the curtain glimpse.
Yes.
We were going to do this a bit later in the week. We
Right.
thought we might be able to do this a bit later in the week. I was planning to grab this tomorrow to play before the next time we record, which I will still do, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to win the lottery one day. If we're just talking about things that we haven't done, this podcast can be anything. But I want to play this as well. I really want to find the time to, because it seems like something where they're all big games, long games, and they're all like the sort of thing where I want to dedicate a bit of time to it.
Totally.
When going into it. So I want to.
And they seem pretty easy to drop in and out of, possibly. Like, I get the impression from talking to you about it that it's pretty arcadey.
A little bit, yes.
In a sense,
And maybe, again, it is because it's early on and it is kind of segmented because it's teaching you all the mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
But I think so. I think that's the case. It has a really fun kind of sense of humor to it as well. And kind of just a fun feeling. Like the music in it's all like this over the top, like rock and roll, like Tekken, like intro scene kind of music. It's all very over the top, but I do feel like it has a sense of self-awareness about it.
Okay, cool.
And it just seems really lighthearted and silly, and it has this kind of Infernal Affairs, like Departed, silly kind of convoluted mafia story at the same time.
Yeah,
So
great. I really love that kind of stuff. It sounds like it's touching on both gameplay-wise and style-wise similar sort of stuff to Sleeping Dogs, almost.
Yes. The combat is a little bit old-fashioned. It's not your Sleeping Dogs Arkham style, hit counter kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more old-fashioned. It's more like an actual old-school beat-em-up.
Right.
But I'm okay with it so far.
So it's not like combos, it's just like button mash.
It is it's combos and maybe dodges and stuff. It's just not as sophisticated.
Right.
It's not that style that is so... It's all the same now, that style,
the
that
Batman,
Arkham... the Batman, the Arkham series. It's just a little bit different. So I'm coming to grips with that, but I'm still enjoying it. And I'm just pumped to play more of it.
Here's something I've been meaning to ask you that I don't know if I ever did. You went to Hong Kong last year.
I did.
And having played Sleeping Dogs,
yes.
Did you find it to be realistic?
Did you bash anyone in the head with your car door?
Were there any dogs that were asleep on the street?
Did you become a filthy double agent where you were in the mafia and also...
Was my storyline kind of shit?
No, but did you... Because that was a thing I remember reading about that game at the time. Like, it's a pretty spot-on portrayal of Hong Kong. And playing that game is what's made me want to go to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So did you... Yeah, is it... Do you consider it to be a good representation?
I absolutely do. In the same way that we would probably think Persona is spiritually and more abstractly a good version of Tokyo.
Yeah.
This was... But it also was more specific. It was more like the Yakuza version of Tokyo. Sleeping Dogs as Hong Kong was like pretty realistic, pretty dead on, had the same kind of like geography and landscape and the buildings and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite thing about that game, like walking through the markets and stuff where you did just, I don't know, something about it, just even without having been there, like you can just tell, just has this feeling of like, this feels real. Like,
Yes.
this feels very specific
Yes.
in a way that it's not just making a broad stroke. Like,
Yep.
I bet this specific market, like, actually exists in some
Yeah.
form.
Same thing with Watch Dogs 2 and San Francisco.
Yeah,
I've
right.
never been to San Francisco, but it, by all accounts, is very, like, obviously not exactly the same because that would be a nightmare.
Yes.
It's a squished, sort of evocative version of it, but it's pretty close.
Yes, totally. Like there's a bit in Sleeping Dogs where you're like just driving down a city street and then on the right is a temple.
Yeah.
And you can go into the temple and you learn some like fucked up martial arts there.
Yeah.
But that's what Hong Kong is like. You're driving down this crazy city street and there's a lush little garden with a temple in it. So
When you want to date girls, they make you go on a fucking parkour quest
Yes.
with them for 5 minutes.
Yes.
I kind of
Yeah.
feel it sounds almost like the city itself is a character.
Hmm.
It's an interesting concept. There's some other news stuff that did actually happen since the last episode as well. Speaking of long-ass Japanese games.
Yes.
Final Fantasy 15, which we all liked,
Yeah.
is... So there's a new version of it out that's just got all the DLC called the Royal Edition.
Right.
And then there's a PC version that's called Final Fantasy 15 Windows Edition.
Oh,
Which is a really fucking silly name, but I love it.
Great.
With that, if you buy it on Steam, you get a little Half-Life costume, Gordon Freeman's
yeah, I saw that.
suit,
Yeah.
which is fucking rad.
Yep.
And it makes me want to get that, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to. But the Royal Edition has all the DLC, and they've said that they're doing another series of DLC things.
Yes.
Another 4 of them in the same vein as the ones that have already happened, which none of us have played any of.
No.
Yeah.
And I like this just makes me go, oh, I'm gonna wait another year
Right.
and then play through that game again in another year probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy that stuff's still coming out for it, right? Because it was end of 2016. It
Yeah.
was like November 2016. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then that season pass they sold with it had those 3 ones that focused on each of your buddies.
Yep.
Yep.
Expanded their stories, and these are 4 more of a similar thing, but about the first one's about Arden,
Yep.
who is the villain.
Yep.
There's probably one about Luna.
Yep.
He's like teased at that, and then 2 others
Yeah.
about
The garage girl
the car.
and the car. Yes.
And
Yeah.
were people into? Do you have any idea? Like was the DLC that's out? Has it been well received?
So I think it pretty much exactly the same as the original game, where some people are like, yeah, this is great, and some people are like, this is the worst shit I've ever seen. You know,
Right.
Like, it was a pretty divisive game, and I don't think any of it has really done anything to address a lot of what people had issues with.
Yeah.
Right.
Including the pacing of it, because all of these are separate.
Yeah.
I think you just go into them from the menu.
Yeah.
And so, I want to go through them all, but there's something about not having all of them there that makes me want to hold off on it.
Yeah.
So these all they sort of take place off in separate places, and they're kind
So
of
during the story, but like during the story, you get separated from your buddies at some point.
Yeah.
It's that
Right,
that is
it's
the
what's
ones that
going
exist.
on.
And then there's also
Yeah.
a multiplayer thing,
Right.
which I'm not really sure how that works. It's all really interesting. I want to play it, but I don't want to have to go back to that game 3 times.
Yeah.
Going
Yes.
back through it a second time, I will do, but I'm not playing it 3 times.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of DLC, like we talked about it when it came out, but the Zelda DLC, I played it for this, and then I have not gone back to it. Like, I really like what you're saying, where it's like off while this other stuff is happening. That's kind of like some version of that is really what I was hoping that would be. Like,
Right.
I know we got new shrines and a new dungeon and everything, but yeah, like I don't know.
it was good. It was the same stuff. I think, like we said at the time as well, the thing about that game was finding new
The
things.
discovery.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that DLC didn't really do anything.
And
to
I
make
had
it do
really
that.
built myself up to think that like it was gonna maybe like take place like before like you were gonna go back and so see this
Right.
world in a different context,
Yeah,
or
sure.
maybe you would play as one of the champions or 4 of the champions. Like I really thought it was gonna be a lot more like have a lot more going on and really
Right.
take place separate to what this world is, other than just like add a couple things in. But
Yeah.
I think I don't know, I'm starting to, I kind of have this thing where like if you like something, like you have to go in on the DLC, and you're sort of like letting yourself down if you've like gotten it, and like not if you
Right.
devoted a lot of time to the full game, you're sort of you're shortchanging yourself by not committing a good deal of time to the DLC.
Yeah.
And I think I'm starting to realize like I don't know. It's just I find it very hard to go back to, even
Yeah.
if it's good and fun and it's still doing a lot of the same stuff that was fun. Once I've finished it and kind of put it away mentally, it's just kind of hard to go back to. Like,
Completely agree. Yeah.
Mario and Rabbids, I haven't even touched that.
yeah,
The Mario thing, I refuse to put that fucking
Yeah.
cartridge in the Switch.
Yeah, same.
We haven't talked about that yet, really, the balloon stuff, right?
Have any of
'Cause-
us played it?
No,
No.
but we've seen
Yeah.
the reactions, and the reactions are pretty much all negative.
Well, my reaction is to not care at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
all of our reactions is I can't be bothered playing this part of this game that we all loved.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like it's weird that it getting a bad response is barely even a story because like no one gave a fuck about it to begin. It got announced
Yes.
and people were like, "Oh, whatever." Like,
Yeah.
I guess if you were getting it new and that was in there, it's like okay, that's okay, that's cool that that's in there.
Yeah.
but it's not something that's gonna like drive you to go back and turn it back on again and
Totally.
sink hours into.
I think people are just like, look, let me love the game. I don't
Yeah.
want to have to worry about this thing that seems disappointing. I'm not
Yeah.
even going to address it.
Just a weird thing where it's like something that just should have been
It's
in there in the
problematic.
first place.
It's a
Yeah.
problematic thing about Mario.
Yes.
And you know what? I can separate the art from the second part of the art that comes along.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would have just preferred a big, cool costume pack or
I
something.
know,
Same,
yeah,
yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Or fucking more levels,
I mean,
motherfucker.
yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I should say, you said we all loved it. I didn't love it,
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's true.
but I liked it.
But you
and
should've.
and I would have loved some kind of more substantial
Yeah.
thing to play.
I guess
Yeah.
at the same time you can say this about literally every game almost. So it's a hard
Yeah.
like Far Cry 5, they announced that DLC and I don't think we talked about that. There's a Vietnam thing, a thing
Right.
where you go to Mars, and then Far Cry 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Vietnam, like make it just a completely separate thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like 2 Far Cry mini games
I mean, you
Yeah.
that you're
mentioned
getting. That
Mar-
sounds cool.
you
Yeah.
mentioned Mario Rabbids before. I'm looking forward to the next one of that, which is a new world and Donkey Kong being a character.
Oh,
in it.
yeah.
because
yeah.
it's like this is what I'm talking about. Okay, hopefully it'll feel like brand new. I don't feel like I'm just retreading the thing that I'm already finished. It's like
Sure.
a whole new level, a different kind of character to get the grips of. But who knows? Maybe that's probably the test of whether I'm just fundamentally never going to be into DLC.
Do you know,
like
you
if I
like-
start that and can't be fucked with it, then that'll be the lesson learned to not bother with this anymore.
Yeah.
Something I haven't really thought about before that's just kind of struck me is I really hate playing 80% of a game, dropping it for 4 months and going back to try and finish at
Yes.
20%. I can't
Yes.
do that. And that is what even good DLC tends to feel like.
Absolutely.
Yes, you're right.
yeah,
I've got maybe
yeah.
4 things sitting there where, yeah, I have this thing where if I've enjoyed something, I feel like I owe it to myself and to the product to have finished all of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, it's fine to go,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this, I just got busy and fell off with it. But what I enjoyed was still really, really good. But
Yeah.
once I've taken a break from something, it is, even if it's like, yeah, you're like, I want to finish this, I'm so close to the end.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's so hard to make yourself come back around to it, especially when there's new stuff kind of, there to steal your attention as well.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
I suppose
Yeah.
the exception to that would be like the Telltale games and things that are episodic like that.
Yes.
That's a better model for doing this sort of thing, I suppose.
And I think it's probably because they're purpose built to be episodic. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
each episode
sure.
does contain a full arc of a sort. So you have a sense of satisfaction and completion, but because they're so short, you do still want to keep playing them when they come out.
And it's
Mhm.
not like with them that by the 6th one you'll have forgotten mechanics from the first one because they're so simple
Totally.
to play. Like that's part of the problem is like this Mario and Rabbids DLC I assume will be increasing the difficulty above where it was
Right.
by the end of the 4th level.
Yes.
So then the 5th one, I haven't played it in months. I
Yeah.
don't remember the ins and outs of this, so I'm worse at the game now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm coming back to it with you giving me the hardest thing you've made where I'm at 50% of my capacity.
Right.
Yeah.
from
So
before.
then, what's your ideal DLC? Like,
a
what's
sequel.
yeah?
I think.
Yeah,
Like,
Yes.
yes, yeah, totally. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like I can commit to a long game and I can play it all the way through and I can finish it if I like it. But I'm also liking the pacing and the completion of the story and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't tend to go in for DLC even if I've heard it's great. I'm
My-
waiting for
yeah.
the sequel.
It's mine's like I said, a whole new area, or at the very least, if it's not going to be that, just a big bunch of like optional cosmetic changes
Yeah.
that are going to like make it look and feel different enough so that when you boot it up again, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to fuck around with this for another half hour. And it's like, oh, it looks different like this.
Yeah.
And you know what? It is different every time I've played a game when I've gotten like the Game of the Year edition or whatever and played that first. The DLC being in there is sick because like, oh, the game is just bigger.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Coming to something later is probably the way to do it.
Yep.
And is the way I would do it probably still if it weren't for doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree.
I like if there's gonna be more something, I wouldn't have played Final Fantasy 15 yet. I wouldn't have played Resident Evil 7 when I did. You know, everything where it's like there's definitely this DLC coming.
Yeah.
I would hold off on it.
And
It's interesting because DLC is set up to avoid the problem of people on-selling these games, but then it also, like you said, makes a compelling point for the opposite of that. Like they must see it actually negatively affects the sales when it first comes out. Like you can have a heap of people wait until a year down the track.
Waiting until there's this cheaper version of the game with everything.
With
in
everything,
it.
Yeah. I also wonder. Well, I know for a fact our perspective is skewed, obviously, because of what we do.
Because we're fucking lunatics.
Yeah, and because we are of the age and like lifestyle where we have disposable income, we spend a lot of it on games. There's got to be this great scenario where you're maybe a kid or you're someone who just doesn't have the money or maybe the time to play a lot of new games, but you got a game that you love and you played it all the way through, and then a year later you're like, fuck, $20 more and I get to play another 3 hours of this game I loved. Perfect.
And then I think people, like if I was in the position, if I was, 13 and didn't have any money, didn't have a job.
No pubes.
Yeah. So if I was basically the same as me now, but 15 years ago, like that's where stuff like PUBG and Counter-Strike and all these multiplayer games come in, where you've got an infinite amount and League of Legends and whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That is probably more appealing because that sort of game didn't exist in the same way.
Yeah.
Then. I mean, I guess there was literally Counter-Strike. So never mind.
But like what you were saying about being a kid and like, it being $20 more to extend the game a bit. I also think it goes the other way where it's like when you're that age, like your disposable income is at a premium. So
it's
it would
like,
almost
fuck you, I'm not paying you $20 more for 3
right.
years.
I would never have ended up doing any of that stuff when I was a kid because I just wouldn't have had the money and it would have really bummed me out. And like I'm glad that I grew up at the time I did in terms of like a lot of things and games being one of them that like when it's like a big deal to like get given a cartridge, like get a game when you get it, like it you really feel the impact of it and everything. And you're not having, and not as much stuff was coming out, so it's not as easy to access all the knowledge and the reviews and everything. Like you would read at most you would read a magazine and then it would show up on the shelf at Target, and then that would be the thing that you would play for 6 months. Like you weren't really aware of these like billion other things that were out there, and you also weren't expected to spend perhaps double the amount of money over the lifespan of it to have the same experience as everyone else.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, you can get the rest of this episode later on if you pay $4 more.
So that kind of leads into, I guess, maybe one of the questions that we had about consoles.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to take the reins on this?
Well, does someone who's got a phone handy want to read it?
I'm trying to.
I'm
here we
literally
go.
the only person who cannot.
Yes,
speaking
I
of us
do.
all being the age where we have disposable income, Ben's phone got repossessed because he forgot to pay his bills.
This email is from Morgan, and it reads as follows. Hi, guys. I've been listening to the show for a good 6 months.
Thanks for writing in.
My question to you three is, what is your all-time favorite console? They said that theirs was the N64 in it because it was their first ever and has a place.
Yep.
But so I get, what is your all-time favorite console is a question from Morgan. And we thought this was interesting because, like, I mean, I'm looking at it from the way of if I was on a desert island.
Yeah, okay.
That because my favorite one, I don't like. There isn't a favorite for me necessarily. There's stuff I've liked on every single console.
So you have to like intellectually like justify it by being in a situation.
I can't have an emotional attachment to something. I have to figure it out coldly and analytically.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
You do have to clarify with yourself on what grounds, because so that's what made me remember this question was the thing of like growing up when we did with gaming. Probably the N64 is like right in the sweet spot for me of being the right age and games taking this big leap, and probably the most time before doing this show that I ever sunk into games.
Right.
But it's also full of games that I don't think necessarily hold up anymore.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that
Sure.
that would not be as fun to play now as they were back then.
The
Yeah.
64 is a weird, and was weird at the time, I remember, because it had like 10 to 15 fucking amazing games
Yeah.
on it, and then everything else was kind of
Like fine. Yeah, there was a lot of third-party stuff that was like okay at best. But again, like it being of an era where you don't, you're not on the internet, you're not seeing all the reviews, and it's
Yeah.
like your standards are a little different when you're younger. It's like,
oh,
it's a
definitely.
cool racing game. Whereas you're thinking about it now objectively, it's like, game was a pile of shit. It
Why
looked
can you
bad,
only
it
drive
handled
fucking
bad.
Beetles?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
kind of person?
Right.
It's no adventure driving a Beetle.
See, I loved that game.
Yeah.
I really loved
I
that
don't
game.
think I ever played it actually.
And I have no idea if it's actually any good or not, but I remember renting it on a whim going, oh, okay, this is one of the ones I haven't played. It's cool, it's fun racing game, and it had
Yeah.
a silly battle mode in it, but I like a lot of that stuff that I was into on that console, whereas the Super Nintendo, a console that I got into like later in life, I think that catalog holds up, way better.
Right.
But it's not. But I don't have that same attachment to it. I've just continued to go back in on the classics from that
Yes.
over more of an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could call it my favorite because it doesn't. Yeah, it's not hitting that pleasure center in my brain when I think about it.
But and then also, what I'm taking into consideration is like, it's not the best controller that ever existed.
Yeah.
So it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, like if you could say every game is on every console, which one would you think is the best?
right.
Just
right.
purely based on like aesthetics and what the controller and all that shit.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of a separate question, but I think that's interesting.
Totally.
too.
I think I'm just trying to balance
And
it all
mine
in
would
my
be
head.
the Nintendo 64. Just the dumbest, goofiest controller.
Yeah.
I was holding one of them the other day,
Oh,
and
boy.
man, they're a lot smaller than they were when my hands were child's hands. But it's to the point where it's really uncomfortable, and just the idea of separating the joystick and the D-pad and it, like those three prongs.
Yeah.
Even at the time of being, impressionable and it being like a futuristic thing,
Yeah.
even then I remember being like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, cool! They've made it something for an octopus now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About time they had a.
Because
video game.
I had a PS1 and I admit even at the time, like, not many of my friends had PlayStations, and so it wasn't as fun in that way. People weren't coming around being like, oh, let's all get together and play Tekken 2. Like, everyone wanted to go to the person's house that had the N64.
Yeah.
Having the 4 controller ports at the time as well was awesome.
Totally.
Huge. That was the big,
And,
yeah.
and so I loved my PlayStation, and I played it all the time. I fucking, like, just wore it down. Like, I played it so much.
Yep.
And then I would go to someone's place with an N64, and everyone was like, fuck yeah, Smash Bros. And I would pick up a controller. I'd be like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
I can barely play this console.
Well, then get out of here. Leave my sleepover then, Ben. Jesus Christ.
And I go and I'd be like, I'm not very good at these games because I can't play this damn controller.
Well, it might sound stupid that I only just worked this out, but the Earth is flat. It's just a big bet hedge. Like they go, okay, we're going to have this 360 stick, but what if all that anyone else makes on it is platformers and
Right.
stuff that needs the D-pad?
Yeah.
What if Mario 64 ends up being the only game that uses this?
Right.
So we'd better play it safe and just still have that there. Which
Yeah.
now the D-pad is, we were talking about this recently, just often relegated to scrolling through items. Like it's
Yeah.
very, very rarely ever used for
Yeah.
control, but I think they just maybe got spooked and thought,
Do you know what's funny with that controller though? The Sega Saturn had a controller with an analog stick on it before the 64.
yeah, you're
Right.
And
right.
it looked the same as a Dreamcast one,
Yeah,
basically.
you're right.
Where the stick was up the top, and then you had the D-pad if you move your thumb a little bit south.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, Sony hedged their bets even more because they didn't have a D-pad. They didn't have an analog stick initially on the PlayStation. It was just a D-pad. The analog controller was this big thing that came out
Yep.
much later on and was like, you had to buy a new fucking controller when it
I
came
didn't
out.
Yeah.
realize this, and I found it out the other. They did an analog controller and then the DualShock one. So they did an analog one that was the same thing, but with
Right.
like concave sticks and no vibration.
Right.
That was only around for like 3 months, and then they went, "Oh wait, what if this thing could get you off?"
Yeah.
And then that's the best controller that's ever been made, to my mind.
Totally.
Through the PS1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
That same controller. I don't like the PS4 controller anywhere near as much.
See, I don't see a difference at all.
It's
I know it
curvier.
is slightly different.
The sticks are placed differently. I don't like the R2 and
bumpers.
L2. The touchpad thing is cool and nothing ever uses it.
Right.
That's a shame, but it's fine. But
Yeah, I'm with you, Ben. I don't see a difference, and
Yeah.
I've never liked the PlayStation controllers. I've
Right.
always found them like, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but I've always found them like way too angular, like just a
Right.
bit too, just missing that little kind of comfort of the grip. I think the Xbox ones have always been really good. I
Right.
think the Dreamcast one was great.
that original fucking Xbox controller, I liked it.
Right.
That huge bastard.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
could club someone to death with.
Yeah.
I mean, you could club someone to death with anything if you tried hard enough. But that one, but yeah, the 360 controller was fucking great,
Right.
and still is. That's a good one to plug into a computer to use.
I still feel like going back and forth between the PS4 and the Switch, as I do, because those are the two consoles I have. It's again, we talked about this recently, but the interface of the Switch and the controller,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, like it used to be a lot better, but man, what they have done to like the home screen and everything of the PS4, I kind of hate turning it on now.
Yeah.
Like it actively stops me from playing games. 'Cause I'm like, I gotta wade through that fucking menu.
Yeah.
I hate the music. It's like it's cluttered.
Try
Like
having an Xbox One, man.
Yeah, right.
The Xbox One has a fucking mess of a
It's
opening screen.
It's really strange to me as someone who's like been a designer or interested in design for my entire life.
What's your favorite font? Prove it. Name the best 5 fonts.
Futura.
Yeah.
I was always a big Helvetica fan.
Yep.
Okay.
I like Roboto.
Okay.
Open Sans is a really good one. It's one of the Google fonts.
Yeah.
It's like a cleaner, better version of Arial. And you wanted a fifth, didn't you?
Yeah.
you sure did.
Fuck.
Wingdings.
Babus New.
Babus
Ooh.
New.
Yeah.
Huh.
No
Look at-
Times New Roman, no love for the classics.
No.
This guy hates books.
I'm sans serif only. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But what was my point?
Sans serif. Your point was that it's crazy how they fuck it. Like,
Well, there's been great user interface design for 50 years,
Yeah.
and yet consoles have always fucked it.
Yeah.
Until the Switch. I
The
love
Switch,
the
and
Switch.
especially Nintendo coming out of 2 consoles in a row where the home screen was like a fucking purgatory thing, where it was just all these little weird Mii characters roaming around going, "Please free us from this prison."
Yes,
So what I have
yes.
to hover the thing over one of their heads, and then the game comes up.
Yeah.
They did this for 2 consoles in a row, and then went, "Guys, we all know this is fucked."
Yeah.
and
it's
like
pretty
now-
cool that sometimes you'll see a Snoop Dogg that someone made walk across your screen, but we have
Yeah.
to change.
But yeah, this one is great, and I really hope because the PS4 one, when I first got it, it was fine. It
Right.
wasn't bad.
Right.
And they just, I don't know, they divvied up, they sort of changed where stuff, especially settings. If you go to look for any kind of settings
Yeah.
thing in there, there's 4 different places you have to go to change settings and stuff, and it just became so cluttered and overwhelming.
Yep.
I really think it's just a product of time that ends up making it worse, and
Sure.
I hope the Switch just still keeps that main front page as just a row of games on a
Yep.
simple background.
I know what it
Totally.
is for the Xbox One, as well as partly them having a fight between design and advertising space.
Right.
Yeah.
There-
right.
It's not necessarily ads as in fucking Paul Rudd's in a new movie or whatever. There is a bit of that.
There is, yeah.
But it's
It's
Xbox
always in movies.
Gold you can get. Hello.
Yes.
And once you figure it out, it's totally fine.
Right.
But I remember, especially initially, the Xbox One was baffling to me.
I think that it might be in America, the American versions of the PlayStation interface, it has much more of that as well. I
Right.
think we might escape it, maybe because we don't have the same.
NFL and whatever. There's a lot
Sure,
more of that
yeah.
sort of we don't have the same subscription-based services.
Sure,
that
the
are
same
available.
corporations buying into the
Yeah.
interface.
Yeah.
The interface of the PS4 has gotten worse over time because the software is kind of constantly updating.
Yeah.
The machine can't keep up with it, and it's getting clunky as well.
I hate the sound design too.
Yeah.
I hate the little background music. I hate the
The PS3
noise
was
it makes
the same.
when it turns
Yes.
on. Yeah.
Very,
It was,
very similar.
it was so fucking pretentious, the PS3, to turn on and be like, string quartets.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
most important fucking video game thing it's ever been made.
Yeah.
Oh, that always bothered me. And the cross-media bar, I remember when it came
Yes,
out,
Yeah.
that's right.
they were very
Yeah.
look at what we've invented. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
Give us just a list.
Yes.
A list is always easier.
Whereas the Switch is like the sound design of that, like it's very, it's kind of like Apple via Nintendo.
Totally
Like
Apple,
I don't know
yeah.
whether that's deliberately by design or not. Like so many people have this thing, and the people who have it love it. Let's kind of tap into that
I think
psychology
it
and make it
very
feel the
much-
same. But it
very
just
much
feels
is.
it feels clean and it feels quick and it feels
Yeah.
snappy. Whereas like all of the sound design of the PS4 one is like these sounds that are just, you know what I mean? They're a bit more drawn out. It feels sluggish to get into things.
I
like,
think that every console apart from the Switch and the other Nintendo ones, they have different problems, but they all have the Mountain Dew and Doritos gamer version of like an interface.
Yeah.
Like it's not elegant or anything at all.
To some extent, I think part of something that's fucked with it for the modern ones is profiles, having that to be
Right.
signed into that. For the
Yeah.
360 at least, that was often a hassle.
Right.
Of like, hey, you're not signed in, so fuck
Yeah.
off.
yeah,
But
that's a
that-
pain in the
that's
ass.
still-
And
yeah.
it still does happen here, but they've gotten better with the Switch, especially. Just going like, hey, who's playing every time?
Oh,
Yeah.
the Switch.
That's smart.
Totally. I was yeah,
It's
I was
quick
going to
and
say
it doesn't take fucking forever to log you in.
yeah, the PS4 has it. The Switch doesn't. The Switch is perfect, I feel like.
Yeah. So to go back to the question of what your favorite console would be, if we were doing this in, let's say, if we were answering this in say 4 or 5 years time,
Yeah.
and if the Switch has continued to release, has continued the momentum that it currently has,
That it had in 2017.
that it
Yes.
had in
Yeah.
2017,
Yeah.
and I continued to travel as much as I did in 2017,
Right.
then easily my answer would be the Switch.
Right.
Like in the 1 year and the way that like it just fit in so perfectly to my life and the number of things coming out on it that I've absolutely loved. Like if that maintains, there'll be a very strong case for that to be for that to be my all-time
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
But as it is, I probably am still I'm going to base my answer on like personal attachment and fond memories and say the 64
Yeah,
would
okay.
rank as my favorite.
And you as well, Knox?
If the Switch keeps going in the way it will, then I'm similar in that I would say in 5 years my favorite console will probably be the Sega Saturn. But I don't know. No, for me it's like I think I have to base it on that idea of being on a desert island and what library of games would I want.
Yeah.
From that point of view, it would be either a Game Boy Advance,
Okay.
because including having all the Game Boy games on it, I used to fucking
Yeah.
love that thing.
Right.
Or a PS2, probably. I think the PS2
Okay.
is even if you take it for the context of when they came out and where like the time when they were released, I think the PS2 was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
When it first released, it looked incredible, and then it had probably the best library of games brought out for it over its lifetime.
Right.
I think it'd be that.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not emotionally attached to it though, so that's weird. Like if I was,
I mean, you saying the Game Boy Advance, maybe some form of Game Boy would be mine because it's like, being a little kid and going on long car trips and
that's
like,
that's the emotional answer for me. Is
Right.
Yeah.
It's either a Game Boy or a Color in Advance, one of the series of them.
Right.
It's a very emotional answer to say the words Game Boy.
Yeah.
Man, it's smart. Imagine if this was called like the Game Boy Super or whatever, the Switch.
Oh,
If they were
yeah.
still calling things Game Boys.
yeah. I kind of wish they'd brought it back
Yeah.
and just tethered the
Ultra
Switch to
Game
it.
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
I
What do you got?
My emotional pick is probably the
Oh, he's
NES.
short-circuiting.
How do I express? I think it's the NES. It's the first
Yeah.
console I played the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Like played it over the next generation because we didn't get a SNES or
Yep.
the equivalent. And I still love those games. Like
Yeah.
a lot of those games hold up and I play them still. Like Super Mario 3 is maybe my favorite game.
Yeah.
And it definitely holds up today. It's an incredible platformer.
Yeah.
But I think I have to say the PS4 because it's got a massive library of games and I love a lot of them. I own like 100 PS4 games and I fucking love a lot of them.
It's crazy to think when like I've bought my PS4 in the time that we've done this show, and I really ummed and ahed about it. Like, and it's crazy to think that it was ever a consideration that there
Yeah.
was a time where I didn't have one because I was actually thinking about this question today, and like thinking, yeah, fuck, there's actually a good case to be made for maybe it is the PS4 because I play a bunch of stuff on it and some fucking massive stuff on there.
And I really do like the controller. I am okay with the evolution between the third one and the fourth one. I've always loved those the most. It's really difficult though because I love the Pro Controller for the Switch and I love the interface for the Switch and I love a lot of games on it. It's just that I know there's literally like 104 games on the PlayStation 4 that I love, and I like the hardware. It works well. It's a good media center. I like the controller.
Yeah.
It's almost like it just averages out to being my favorite.
Yeah. If you like factored in pure number of hours that the console is on, PS4 would be mine because it's what I watch Netflix and stand on.
Yes, yeah, totally.
So yeah, but it also having that all in the one place in your thing. Like, I sold my Apple TV about a year ago, so I was like, I have no reason to ever turn this on now because I just do all this stuff through the PlayStation.
Yeah, so NES is my emotional pick. PS4, I think right now is just my overall pick. But yeah, same as you guys. If the Switch has a great library in 5 years, then far and away it's going to be my favorite.
And baby, if that virtual console comes out, that's your desert island bad boy right there.
But I'm going to say right now, I am willing to take a bet that the Switch will not be any of our favorites in those 5 years. There's just something in the water. I mean, in the air. There's something on the horizon that just I'm really feeling crook.
Yes, me too.
About it. I will say the Xbox One has the best controller out of the modern consoles for me.
Better than the Pro Controller?
Yeah.
Wow,
I
okay.
think it's the best out of them.
Nice.
I want to get one of them Elite boys.
Ooh.
And also the best console is having a PC. If you're on an island, that is the one you would get.
Yeah.
Well, then you can get on your PC and fucking try and find a way to get off that island.
I will be able to Google it.
Yes.
Can you Google something on your PS4? Yes.
Yes. It'll take you about an hour, but it can be done. So we had another email here
Talking about nostalgia and shit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
From Marcel. The evolution of games, the sort of game you would design keeps coming up on conversation, but what you haven't seemed to talk about is what you imagined games to be. Is what you imagined games to be by now when you were a kid.
Right.
Like I was expected much more... I expected much more open... Fuck me.
Is
this me having a stroke?
Is written perfectly and no, it's a confusing sentence.
Yeah.
I was expected much...
It's like he woke up from a dream and just quickly had to race this out. But also I got distracted because he said, what you haven't seemed to talk about. Pay a bit more attention, Marcel.
No, maybe he's saying there's probably some subtext there.
Oh,
I think there's a little bit that they're saying, but they're not saying.
Right.
You read between the lines.
I expected much more immersive open worlds by now, like GTA 5 Online, but you walk down a street and you're unable to tell a player from an AI. A proper immersive sandbox where you can truly do anything, rather than just a game that tells you can do anything, but can actually do 5 things.
Right.
So what did you imagine games to be like in 2018 when you were 10 years old? I was 10 years old in 1996.
In 1996, I was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10 years old, I was in 1999.
Okay,
Hell yeah.
let's make the question, what did you imagine games to be like in 1996? So, Knox,
Yeah.
you're going to have to go back to being 3, buddy.
Yeah.
No, 6.
7.
Let's make it 8.
I'm going to be 10. I'm going to be in 99.
Okay.
The millennium is on the horizon.
Yes.
What's happened? Well, I had that same thing about it'd be it seemed for a while that the ultimate end goal of video games was to simulate the world perfectly or something.
Yes. Second
And
Life came along and didn't do it properly.
It simulated a better world than we could ever have dreamed of. Imagine if you could fuck a fox and get away with it. But that idea has gotten less and less appealing to me over time. Of having this Majora's Mask was a thing at the time. I remember going yep, this is a direction shit should be going in. Everyone has a schedule. Yeah. Everyone's moving around during the day, doing their own thing, whether you're there or not.
Yes.
And then Oblivion was kind of the same thing of they're making their own decisions. And I do not give a shit about that anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember being really, it's weird that he sent this because I can distinctly remember a conversation with a friend when we were in probably grade 6 or something. So the 64's out, and because it seemed like stuff was advancing so quickly, feeling there's going to be a time when you'll just look at a game and it'll just look like it'll just be a real person.
Yeah.
How crazy is that going to be?
Yeah.
I wonder if it feels like that could happen within the next 3 years, or maybe we'll never see it happen in our lifetime.
Right.
Like, just really
Call
not
Steven
knowing,
Spielberg, get him to make this happen.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds great.
not really knowing like where, like how it was going to pan out and at what kind of time frame.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it's interesting that Marcelo is saying he, at a young age, was specifically thinking about the way that the games would play and the way that the environments would be.
Right.
Because all I could really think about was like the look, and I didn't really know what that would mean for gameplay. I guess I just kind of assumed like maybe it'll all still be just the same, but it'll look like real life.
Right.
And then as I got a bit older and it started to get there, I was like, oh yeah, I wonder if you'll reach a point where it's just, yeah, there's no interface, there's no buttons, there's no, which, yeah, I mean, I don't think we will get to that point, and I don't know that I want us to get to that point.
No,
Right.
because I remember having a similar thought of like, I wonder if games in the future will all be made in the same engine and like everyone will use
Yeah.
the same trees and shit because they just look real.
Yeah.
So why would you
Right.
make a new one? And I remember the specific point where I changed that thought was when I saw Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I remember really appreciating the artistic design of
That
it.
it
Right.
was like different to everything else.
I guess
at
Jet
the
Set
time.
Radio had been before
Yep.
that and stuff like that, but Wind Waker was the thing where, because Zelda was moving in that realistic direction.
Yes.
Right.
And when it came back that way, it went, that's actually cooler.
Yeah.
Over
Yeah.
time, I can't remember if
Knox, off the top of your head, you know when GTA 3 came out?
it would have been 2001.
Okay, so that's after basically, before that came out, that was my vision of the ultimate video game.
Yeah.
Right.
As close to, and even at the time, like, I'm not thinking, this isn't quite realistic. You can't go in every building. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, holy shit, this is a city, living, breathing
It's
city.
living and breathing.
People
Yeah.
walking around.
My mother's my sister. Like, that's when you look back on it now.
I know, right? But that's the thing. Up until and during that game being the biggest game in the world,
Yeah.
that was my vision of the ultimate game. And then once it came out, I think I expected it to get more interactive, more detailed. Not necessarily that the story was going to be better and better and more have more depth or more creativity. Just the worlds were going to get more interactive and more detailed. And they were. Vice City was slightly more interactive and more detailed. San Andreas, when that came out, it
was
fucking
way
blew
more,
my
yeah.
mind. That was like,
It was a
again,
big leap.
another pinnacle of gaming to me. And so that was what I thought games were going to get to before it. And now I still think that's kind of my
They
ultimate.
kind of have.
Yeah,
As well,
yeah.
like Assassin's Creed Origins and shit like that you've enjoyed recently
Yeah.
is that.
the next step along that
Yeah.
evolution, and that's still kind of. And I know that like movies and TV shows have represented this ultimate game as, like you said, the real world. You're in it. You can't
Yeah.
tell the difference between
It's always
it.
called like everything or
Yeah,
whatever in the
yeah.
dumb
Yeah.
Black Mirror episode.
And again, yeah, there's no interface. You're just interacting with this virtual world.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's definitely not the thing that I want. Like, I still think if it was like the fucking Oasis in Ready Player One, maybe I'd love that. I'm still not sure because it
Yeah.
hasn't quite got there.
No, I had a feeling that like at a certain point, like, oh yeah, interfaces will kind of disappear, and like I was saying before, but then so once stuff started to get a bit realistic looking, I was like, oh, this can only be around the corner, and then it's not happened, and I don't think I don't want it to happen. Like, I
Right.
think there's such a great charm in something that looks really realistic, but is still prompting you like, hey, you got to push X now.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't like it would be. I don't know how you would do it, like VR or whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
just think to me at that point, you're not. I mean, we still, those of us who play games or have done for a long time, like that's still pushing a button and it being a D-pad or whatever else it is, a set of buttons and prompts on the screen. That's the stuff that we remember, and that's the anchor for us.
Right.
So if you take all of that away and it's like you've got a headset and gloves on, I think for our generation, it's like that wouldn't feel like a video game anymore. It wouldn't, you know what I mean?
No.
Like you've always still got this like anchor that is kind of like based on something that's deep, deep, deep kind of buried in you that's been a part of, your life for whatever, 20 years at this point.
And you're
Yeah.
looking for chess. You're looking for ancient shit. Like, it's something in the human brain, right?
Yeah.
Because we've had them all. Like,
Yeah.
you want a set of rules to constrict you and then to work within them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know
sure.
what's an interesting, like, sort of middle ground between the two things we're talking about is PUBG, and I think that's part of why it's gotten so appealing.
Right.
Is because it's very video gamey. It's very you are pointing a gun and clicking it to fire at somebody. It's like the most classic style of game. It's
real dopamine hit style thing of picking up extra weapons and
real simple. Like it's simple to understand. You are pointing and clicking
Yeah.
at something, but it has this organic feeling to it as well, because you're trying to outsmart other people,
Right.
and you're trying, like, the way that it moves is very natural feeling, and you don't it doesn't feel like you're on a grid or digital. It feels
that's the thing though, like you mentioned chess.
yeah
Chess is incredibly structured and mechanical, but again, the appeal is the mental battle that's happening,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
interaction between you and a real person, and that's that's what PUBG is, which is another whole different thing.
But then it's so intricate, because it's not these, how many chess pieces are there? Several. And it's not like this very small set of rules that chess has. It's this enormous, very layered set of rules that you can't predict accurately necessarily.
right.
So
right.
it's like this improvisational sort of thing that is really appealing. But it never feels unfair. You're not necessarily aware of what the rule set is,
Right.
but it's close enough to life that you can intuit it.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess.
That human element. I remember like the 64. Something that I was hoping would happen with games. I liked Mario Kart. I liked GoldenEye. Like, that was the first console where you could play with 4 people, and that was like a really big selling point of it, especially like people of our generation. Like, that was such a huge thing, and it just felt like really the only games that came out were, racing games or shooting games.
Yeah.
Everything was kind of in a box. Then there were things like Mario Party where it's like, oh, this is really fun and different. But my hope was always like, man, I would love to just see really surprising, weird, different, like silly mechanics in these kinds of things.
Yep.
And that's kind of happened a lot more, even just in the last couple of years with indies, where they can just go, here's a simple, fun idea that's for 4 of you to fuck around with on the couch together.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I kind of really wanted, like just heaps more super fun, silly 4-player games that was like, not just a racing game, not just a shooting game, but like something different going on that kind of took you a little while to learn, or like
Right.
you know what I mean? Couldn't sort of super simply be summed up.
Yeah. You know what can be super simply summed up? The sponsor for this week's episode.
Oh, well, I didn't have another point to make, so luckily I'm not annoyed that we're going into this. I was just going to say very, very quickly the thing of, I did think of that thing of everyone's in the game all at once, and never predicted how much when that happened people would fuck it.
Yes,
by
right.
like VR chat and all that sort of shit. Like, people immediately, you put a bunch of people in there and like, let's make this the worst shit we possibly can.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of worse shit, let's talk about the opposite.
Yeah.
Some good stuff.
Yeah, some stuff we genuinely fucking love.
Yeah. HelloFresh is our sponsor again this week. If you don't know what HelloFresh is, I can tell you right now. It helps solve the what's for dinner debate by delivering delicious, fuss-free recipes with the exact pre-proportioned fresh ingredients you need to cook them from scratch.
Hell yeah, my
You
dude.
need these ingredients. You can't fucking improvise.
No, you shouldn't.
What are you, Anthony Bourdain? No.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
You need
I
guidance.
improvised the wrong answer.
You didn't have the ingredients for that conversation.
Yes.
And it's fuss-free, and it's fresh food, and it's delivered straight to your door, and then you prepare it.
Yes.
And
Which
it's
I,
fun to do.
Oh, totally. I love to cook, and I hate to go grocery
Not cook.
shopping after work. Yeah.
You've got different preferences. You can do veggie preference here in Australia, whether you're pescatarian, a flexitarian, gluten or dairy-free, our classic box.
What's a flexitarian?
I think it's someone who kind of like vegetarian for a month and then not.
So,
It's
okay.
a normal person.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's what
yeah.
it like. Sometimes I eat vegetables, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
I'm
That's a
flex-
normal person.
Now,
I only eat
You've-
biceps.
yeah,
I'm
right?
flexitarian.
Yeah. You've guessed what it means.
Do you want me to Google it?
No. I just like that you took a real big stab and were like, I'm just gonna say what I think it is.
I'm with Knox. I reckon that's what it is.
Yeah,
I have
really.
to-
You should back the fuck up.
I would never.
No, you keep reading the copy. I'll Google it.
Okay.
Nah, I'm Googling it because flexitarian.
Something I got a lot of shit for doing a couple weeks ago.
I just-
Interesting.
Yeah, and that wasn't even during an ad.
Okay. What is a flexitarian? This is on Yahoo Answers, so this will be correct. Flexitarianism is a term used in the United States to describe the practice of eating mainly vegetarian food, but making occasional exceptions for social, pragmatic, cultural, or nutritional reasons. So it's a vegetarian who's a fucking pushover.
It's just a normal person.
You're
Yeah.
flexible. That's what it is. Flexitarian. You're
Yeah.
If you
flexible.
do
okay.
that and
What we immediately said from the word. That
Nah.
if you do that and that's how you describe yourself,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
One of the good things about HelloFresh, it's easy to get into arguments, as we've just made, but this reduces it by getting rid of that what's for dinner debate, because they send you a bunch of different recipes,
Yes.
all the ingredients, and they're all fresh, and they do taste really good.
we
yeah.
mentioned
We've
this
tried
last
it.
week. They sent us a trial of this, and
Yep.
all three of us loved it.
Yes. Yep.
I got it sent to my parents' house, and I went down there and had one of the things with them.
Nice.
Two of them, really great. So whether you're a meat lover or a vegetarian, or something in between,
Uh,
Oh, they're coming back around to this.
There's
a
no
busy
word for
parent
it.
maybe, an aspiring cook, HelloFresh have got recipes for every taste. You can
I'm an
pick a box.
aspiring cook.
Aspiring parent.
I'm an aspiring man.
I'm
Pick a box.
perspiring at how bad that was.
Pick a box that works for you. Blah blah blah. You get it. But
No,
blah, you
not
get
blah,
it.
blah, blah. You get it. These people are paying us money.
Yeah.
This isn't an email from a beloved listener that you can just skim over.
yeah. Love the show. Blah 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 blah. Here's the code. Sign up here.
they source all the ingredients they need and deliver them pre-measured in an insulated box to make sure it's fresh if you're not in. That's an
Which
important point.
I get home from work. I get home, I work, and then it shows up. No, I get home from work and I got the box. It was like sitting there all day. Get it in. It's all fresh. It's all cool.
And they got some little cold packs in there that you can reuse, which
Yes.
is very environmentally conscious.
Indeed.
Yeah, there's very little package. Like, there's only the bare minimum amount of packaging. There's not a
Yep.
lot of waste.
Yep.
Step-by-step recipe cards that will help you create a huge range of delicious dishes from around the world.
Oh, and did we mention this in the last ad we did for them? I think this is one of my favorite things about this service.
Yes.
Is that you certain ingredients they just send you what you need. So if you look up a recipe, you go out and buy a thing that you need 1 tablespoon of, and it just sits there and you never end up using it again
Oh,
until you
yeah.
throw it out.
Yeah.
This cuts down on that. You
We-
literally just get a sachet of like exactly what you
Yeah.
need.
We talk about that a lot. How we end up buying a bunch of stuff and then it just starts to go to waste in
Yeah.
the bottom of the fucking
Yeah, well,
fridge.
because you and I both live alone.
Yeah.
Separately. And I fucking hate having to buy like garlic and shit. I mean, garlic doesn't really go off.
No, I get
mushrooms.
Mushroom, spring onions. It's like
Yeah.
you're not going to use a whole bunch of spring onions, and you
yeah,
don't.
Produce is a real killer.
Yeah.
Their recipes are family friendly and been created with busy parents in mind.
Yeah,
Take
no
the hassle-
swearing.
No F's and C's in this spaghetti bolognese.
They take the hassle out of meal planning, prep, and cooking so that you spend less time planning meals and more time enjoying them.
You know what I particularly like? I didn't even realize it until I just thought about it. The recipe cards are great because when you're looking up a recipe on your phone or on, like even on your iPad or whatever, there's a whole bunch of like scrolling and
Yes,
it's closed
yes.
and you got to open up the thing again.
Yeah.
It's just really, really handy.
Yeah.
Well, so if you want to try it, all of their you can.
Did Marcel write this?
If you want to try it, HelloFresh will give you 50% off your first 2 boxes if you use the code CASUALS.
Indeed.
So that's pretty good. And also, you can have a flexible subscription after that.
Nice.
So if you want to skip a week, if you're going away, or if you just don't feel like it, you can skip, pause, or cancel your subscription
Yeah, real
anytime.
flexitarian.
All of the ingredients they send are pre-measured, so there's absolutely zero food waste, like I said. And they've been created, tested, and reworked by their professionally trained team of in-house chefs. So deliciousness is a guarantee.
In-house chefs.
It's
like,
not random. It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
In-house chefs they just sound like these guys are just being held captive there.
I know. Almost like they work there.
It's
man.
what it is. You're captive.
Yeah.
Capitalism is the real prison. So you can try HelloFresh with 50% off your first 2 boxes by using the code CASUALS. And we all recommend that you do.
Yes. Yeah, big fan of them.
So
and
huge thanks to
they've-
HelloFresh.
Yeah, they've supported us, so support them, and you'll get a bunch out of it yourself.
Yeah.
It's great. Now, back
Yes.
to the topic at hand.
One more thing I wanted to say. You mentioning GTA.
Yeah.
I reckon there would be a lot of people who would feel similarly to you that GTA is kind of like the benchmark of what you consider, like what you think about as futuristic gaming before it comes along.
Right.
Because I had that exact same thing, and with all of those games, not that I necessarily I hadn't played any of them until 5, but I had friends who had them, and just seeing it was like, at the time, like I remember GTA 3 being like, it's 3D and you're walking around and it's this whole city, and so your first question is, right, so you can just go into any building and do whatever? Oh, well, no. But they're getting a bit closer to that each time. It's like it kind of expands in a way, and now with the online component to 5, it's like, again, getting one step more to this, like, I guess what people have in their head is like the ultimate futuristic ideal of a video game.
Right.
And it makes me really curious, like, what, like, it feels like it's always kind of like led the way in terms of like open worldy sort of, and that vision of how grand things can get, and it just makes me think like, so 6, like what's gonna what's gonna happen?
Even
like,
Red Dead Redemption 2, which is the next one from them, which like, and that is a whole nother angle on it, because that is the interactivity, the open world, the feeling like you're in another world, but in a different time period. You get to be in like this whole this other genre of entertainment, and that is a whole nother angle on it, which No Man's Sky is the one that I keep thinking of, because it's, before it was released, everyone thought it was going to be the absolute ultimate video game. Get in a spaceship, fly it through infinite galaxies, infinite planets. It's all interactive. You can, and it's like,
but then Sean Murray lied to you.
Yeah. Well, and like, I really like it still, but people had this like incredibly unattainable idea of what it could be.
I think because, I mean, what people were looking for in that was more structure. Like,
Yes.
they weren't looking for what it was giving of this infinite thing. People want, no, I just want infinite heaps of good games I've already got.
Sure, people wanted like what it is, and then on top of that,
What it is, my dude.
the impossibility of detail, curation, and artistry in these infinite worlds and infinite planets and infinite, caves and cliffs and mountaintops.
World of Warcraft hit closer to that in terms of effect.
Sure.
I mean, not scale, but effect.
Yeah.
You know?
There was a good 3 months there where No Man's Sky was like actively being pushed by blogs and websites, and everything is like, this is going to be everything to everyone all at once. This is going to be a universal consciousness that you tap into, and then your head just explodes in a beam of light, and then
the first piece of art that everybody likes.
it really felt that way. Like and it's not, of course it got crushed under the weight of that. Like, how could it not?
Yeah.
I guess Breath of the Wild is, I'm trying to think, because having not played Red Dead 1, is that a situation where if you go into a town, are there buildings there that are just for show that you can't go into?
No, but they're pretty... Oh, actually in the city, yes.
Yeah.
There's that city bit like to the northeast, yes.
Because I think Breath of the Wild might be the one thing where you can go... I mean, this is the case because the villages are quite small.
Yeah.
But you can go into every building that exists in the game, you can go into.
Yeah.
Every mountain that you see, you can get up. Like, every square inch of that game, you can inhabit as the player.
The Witcher 3 came pretty fucking close to that too.
And Red Dead Redemption, like, up until the city, which is quite near the end, it's basically like if Zelda had a big city in the center that you couldn't interact with, but everything else...
It kind of did.
And it kind of did.
Yeah.
So because you have had so much freedom and interactivity throughout the rest of Red Dead, having a few city buildings that you couldn't go into, you don't care.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
But it's the other thing where it's like someone going about GTA 3. Oh, can you go into any building?
Yeah, right.
No. Oh, well, it's not truly free. It's like, do you want to go into every building? Like, what, you want to just fucking walk up 40 flights of stairs and just, like, have a peek at all the offices?
Yeah.
Like,
Also,
you wouldn't do this if you could.
Can you play it, and can a man expect to earn the sweat of his own brow? Then it is not truly free.
Yeah, but it's like... Before now, you couldn't drive a car around a city and, like, jump over an airplane. Now you're nitpicking you can't go in every building.
I mean, it's just kind of a bit of human nature, isn't it? It's like Marcel going like... I mean, I sort of thought I'd be able to tell the difference between a human and a robot by now.
Well, speaking of never living up to expectations, and appreciating what you do have, our third question comes from Thomas. If both of you, I used to work with him, by the way. Hi, Tom. Well, in the same place. I didn't work with. We worked at different companies.
Right.
If both of your arms got chopped off, what games would you still try to play and how? Dance Dance Revolution is the obvious one, I feel like.
Sure.
That is mainly foot-based anyway.
Yeah. So what are you? So you're gonna have to go. I mean, VR would probably be good, but it would need to be one that doesn't use the move thing. Or you could have a system where you're like that bad improv game. Sorry, like that improv game where you've got your arms behind your back and someone else is like got their arms through,
Yeah.
so they're holding the move for you, and you'll be able to see it
That's
in your vision.
the ultimate couch co-op.
Good luck doing that on a couch.
Well, yeah.
no,
some
we
kinda-
have to sit down to do this one.
Some kind of sex swing operation to get
Yes,
that to be
indeed.
viable.
This has always been
Indeed.
interesting, like games for people who have physical disabilities.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like they've made controllers that you can use with one hand.
Yep.
But I mean that's a pretty specific one. Like
Yeah.
there's a guy on YouTube who's played through Ocarina of Time and he's blind. I
Yeah.
thought that was really
right.
cool.
Yeah. I read about him. I don't know if it's the same. I think maybe it is the same guy. He did the same thing with Abe's Odyssey,
Right.
and
Ah.
he talks about how like the sound design in that is such a big part of it for him because you
Wow.
can tell the different terrain makes different noise.
Yeah.
Anything that's going on the screen, like the bad guys make sort of specific
Yes.
sounds.
Yeah.
And I mean there is a very obvious. I mean they are blind, aren't they? Or they can't see very well because you can hide from them very easily in smoke.
No, they can see you.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
can see you. Yeah, yeah.
But there's a thing
The
where you're
squid things. I
Yeah,
forget what
you
they call
can,
them.
you can, like, you just go behind in a shadow and they can't see you.
right.
And if you're above them, they
Yeah.
won't notice you.
Yeah, and you're flicking those your coins or whatever
Yeah,
your little things are
little
that make
peanuts.
noises. It's all very like it's really really sound based and yeah, it did kind of freak me out to think about that. Like if something happened abruptly to me, like
Yeah.
fucking not being able to play games would. I feel like most other things would be a hassle, but I could make do. But
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to play games at
you
all.
kind
like
of ideally need full use of, well, not all your senses. You don't need to smell a game. That's what I thought games would be like when I was a kid.
Yeah, smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision. But
it
yeah,
would be up to
it's-
Fart Man 6 by now.
Yes.
There's not a hell of a lot. There are a few of the like games that have been made that are specifically audio driven too, that
Right.
you can
Yeah,
that
right.
are designed to be played if you only can hear them.
I mean, if I didn't have any hands, I'd use a mouse. I'd play strategy games, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'd have a mouse in my mouth and I'd click it with my teeth.
I would get into adventure games and stuff like that and just have someone else play them.
Yeah.
And just
That's a
make
good
make
point.
make the decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telltale games.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
You know,
That'd be
watch
the one that would be
YouTube
perfect.
playthroughs of games.
Yeah, yeah.
Why not? Because
I just watch movies. I wouldn't
yeah.
play games anymore.
I would become one of those people who's fucking amazing at Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah.
Which is probably
nice.
hard to dance without your arms. Oh, tell that to the Irish. So, never mind. Our
That'd be
fourth-
the next time you're in an arcade and you see someone with no arms on a Dance Dance Revolution
Yeah.
machine. You're like, I see what's going on here.
Nice. Flatly VR.
Uh,
Lord of the Dance Revolution.
I never played. I don't think I've ever played Dance Dance
Me
Revolution.
neither. I have no desire to. I don't like to dance.
I think I have once and gone, yeah, never again. For me on this.
It
Yeah.
seems impossible for the way my brain works to figure it out.
Right.
How to dance in public.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing
I'm too
quite like
self-conscious.
any of those machines, the drumming ones, any of those ones that are in arcades. Nothing like being present for a couple of people turning up and just absolutely owning the machine.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's a sight to behold.
Yeah.
Where it's like they just seem like they're able to operate in slow motion while the rest of the world goes at full speed.
Yeah.
It's
This
like,
guy's incredible. It's like I'm in the chicken payback video.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
wow.
Go and watch it. It's a great song
It
as
is a
well.
great, yeah.
Our fourth and final question for today.
Yes,
we're
we
almost out of time.
Certainly are.
Is from Geraldine. What is and I think this is really interesting. We each have to pick our favorite game.
Okay.
What is the biggest flaw in your favorite game of all time? So first of all, what would each of our favorite games of all time be?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Good lord.
Well, yeah, we've said it heaps on the show, but yeah, Breath of the Wild and its system of how you cook and those little things where you have to like
great call.
anything that is like the best thing of it is that it's so immersive, but then the way that you do stuff is by pausing, freezing time, and scrolling through a very kind of basic bland menu.
Especially in
is
Breath of
such
the
a
Wild's
shame.
case of adding each apple to your hand
Yeah.
individually. Like when you can immediately go, why not let me just pick 5?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you can straight away go, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And you
better.
can't do it all in batches. The fact that they never changed that
Or
got
have
to
a
be
menu.
very frustrating
have-
as time went
when
on.
you come up with a recipe once, have a recipe book.
Yeah.
And then you can just remake them. And if you've got the items in your inventory, they come out and it happens.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I didn't mind so much the fact that you had to remember, like, because you can almost look at that as like a deliberate design choice of like, well, he doesn't have a recipe book with him.
Yeah,
like
right.
He's got a big fucking iPad.
That's very
on his
true.
hip.
Yeah.
But I was able to kind of rationalize it that way, where I was like, okay, this kind of fits the vibe of survival, but not being able to just go do 8 of these.
It was just
at
so
once.
slow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It just took
Yep.
forever for a thing that's like, I like watching the little animation and everything. It just was like, this is taking me out of it and is not really meant to be the point, because everything takes ages in that. I've walked here for ages. I'm about to climb for ages. Like, streamline this. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's probably that's the main one of recent memory that jumps to mind for me.
What's the biggest flaw in Final Fantasy VII?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite game. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about Red Dead Redemption. I was thinking about some of the saving, having to lay the tent down and all that kind of stuff. The mechanic wasn't quite perfect. Honestly, the biggest flaw about it is that it's not been remastered and is on the PS4.
Yeah, having to bend down and skin all the animals and that taking a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's
was
pretty
annoying.
time consuming.
Some of the stuff in Mexico felt like filler.
Yes, yeah.
As well, some of those
the
missions.
pacing was a little bit off, I guess. Yeah.
The pacing of the story, because it was a great main story, the best one that Rockstar have done.
Yeah.
And
that's true, actually. It slows down in Mexico, then ramps up way too quickly at the end, I think.
And I loved the bit after the first end,
Yeah.
where you're in the ranch and everything. So
Yeah.
The pacing of that I think is a big flaw. Do you want to pick one for Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah. Jeez. It is a very convoluted story. Also, kind of racist treatment of the black character in it. That's
Right.
probably the biggest flaw.
That's behind the convoluted story for you.
No comment.
It took ages to get to the racism. And also the racism itself, I guess.
Literally, that one has a chance to redo it.
Yeah.
Redo all of their stuff. Like, I guess.
Oh God! Wait for the outcry if they.
Yeah.
They're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Totally.
They are fucked either way.
Yep, that's another way of saying what Tommy said.
Yeah, but it's a more fun way to say. I'm
True.
also maybe trying to stall so I can think of what my favorite game
Man,
is.
I really struggled with that.
Because there's like different ones in different contexts.
I was thinking BioShock Infinite, the way that the combat is not very good, and it also isn't it doesn't gel with the story particularly well either.
It's interesting though
That's
how
another great one for if you play it when the DLC is already out. It's a better game.
Yes, yeah.
It's interesting too for how something that like the cooking thing I was saying in Breath of the Wild, in any other game that would kind of probably be a big enough reason for me to just like not like it at all and not continue with it. Like a little mechanic that in any other game that you can have like a pretty big complaint about something.
Yeah.
Like you saying, oh, the pacing of Red Dead Redemption and the story is a bit. It's like, that's hearing that in isolation sounds like, oh, so you don't like it, but it's like, no, it's still my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
It just is like.
We've had
This
to
big flaw is there. Yeah.
and it's not even that big. Like we're being nitpicky because of the
For the
question.
sake of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I maybe the first Deus Ex is my favorite game.
What about Metal Gear Solid 3? Isn't that like...
It could be Metal Gear Solid 3. All right, I'm going to do those two.
Okay.
Deus Ex is fucking like clunky and just like awkward and glitchy
Right.
in some point, but not really.
That's... Yeah.
But then it's got a little bit of filler too, and I think if you played it today, the voice acting is kind of dopey and that sort of stuff. Like, it just hasn't aged well.
I guess maybe if I was going to rephrase the question, like a game that you love, in spite of the fact that it has a glaring flaw that in anything else would mean that you stop playing it.
Yeah.
But
Here it is for Metal Gear Solid 3. That game is awkward as fuck to control.
Right.
It had an outdated form of control, and then they changed the camera and everything in the subsistence version, which was like the re-release.
Right.
So it was to the point where when they put the game back out, they were like, we can't put it out like this.
Yeah,
because
right.
it's not like the original top-down version of it is a little archaic to play, and the bosses are not really.
Metal
that
Gear
interesting.
is a tough one because it's such an idiosyncratic series.
Yeah.
As a
Totally.
whole.
Like, it's like saying like, oh, the flaw in her face is that mole, but it's that actress where the mole is like the thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Picasso
mean?
couldn't draw faces properly. Yeah.
if you were going to answer this about any game on the Nintendo 64, it would be the camera.
Yeah,
The camera is
right.
terrible. Any
Right.
platformer.
Right.
The camera is terrible, and at times makes it so that you die extremely unnecessarily.
What about
Right.
this in the few minutes we have left?
Yeah.
This version of the question,
Mm.
is there a game without a flaw?
Oh, no. Did you bring that up because we have like 2 seconds left?
No, we've got a few minutes. I mean, I honestly, before I started picking apart Red Dead Redemption, I probably would have said,
Yeah.
like, because the pacing's fine. It's like it's just slightly off, and it for the time that the mechanics that I have an issue with that were slightly glitchy or not perfect were really, it was a nitpick. You really had to be looking for a problem to be annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Like, it's 99% perfect. to me.
Probably Tetris.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like the whole Russia thing.
Well, it has to start speeding up.
Yeah, no, Tetris is probably
I like it.
Mario 1.
Mario 1, yeah.
But I don't know.
Uh,
Oh, I'll tell you a game without a flaw. Pilot Wings.
very good.
Because you're up in the sky, you motherfucker.
Oh, the
There's no
floor.
flaw, you
yeah,
son
yeah,
of a
yeah.
bitch.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I heard you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, like, it's hard for us specifically to answer because you
We haven't
just
played
saying,
every
like,
game.
Huh?
We haven't played every game.
Well,
Well,
and
and
we're
also-
in the business of nitpicking now as
Exactly,
well. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Like that, what I said about Zelda, if I wasn't in a position where I was, like, coming in to discuss it in this way, maybe it wouldn't have jumped out at me. Like,
Sure.
maybe I wouldn't have noticed, and maybe I wouldn't have played other stuff that makes that stuff a bit more streamlined, where I go, oh,
Yeah.
this does stick out now. Like, it may well have been the one thing I played last year if I wasn't doing a podcast
Yeah.
I
about
think
it.
there's probably a racing game that I would like, maybe like Ridge Racer 1 or some shit
Right.
like that. You know, like maybe like Street Fighter 2.
Sure.
That maybe doesn't have.
But then you can say, I would say subjectively, I didn't like the way it controlled
yeah,
as
right.
compared to Tekken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that is completely
To
subjective.
me, Mario Kart 8 is pretty flawless.
yeah,
Yeah.
But then if you're someone that loves online, you can't voice chat.
Yeah.
You can't do
Yeah.
all this stuff because it's a Nintendo game. But as a fun racing game,
Yeah.
there's not really anything wrong with it.
I honestly think Tetris is probably the pick.
yeah.
So Tetris is
Yeah,
the
it is.
the
Yeah.
flawless game.
So it's
there you
saddled-
go.
Yeah.
The Filthy Casuals' best game of all time, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
All right. We better wrap it up.
We did it, guys. Now we've only got to do this another 3 times in a row.
I
and
actually
we'll-
really liked this.
yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you've got any questions, filthycasuals.pod@gmail.com is our email address.
Yes.
Yep. Chuck them as comments on this episode on Facebook,
Yep.
on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
We got to 4
Yep.
this time. So
And
it
yeah,
takes-
look, try. You've heard what good content comes out of.
Yeah.
Try to not make them. What's your favorite game series?
Yeah.
But there's some, I don't know. But
No,
assume that we've thought of that question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also
yeah.
have talked about it multiple times on this podcast.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was good. So stuff like this is kind of.
What's
that's
your
what
credit
we're
card
after.
number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
6,
9.
Wow, you got one of the first credit cards.
Yes. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much for listening. Yeah, filthycasuals.com.au for information about all this stuff that we have coming up, as well as our Patreon,
Yes.
links to all that sort of stuff.
There will be a new Bandcamp premium episode up by the
Yes.
time between when you're hearing this and the next episode.
Oh yeah, so keep an eye on the socials for that.
Yeah.
Should we say what it was? It was
I
It-
don't know.
It was extremely fun to do.
Yeah.
And like this episode, we got to talk expansively about some things we haven't talked about before.
yeah. Why
It
don't
was-
you want to say what it is?
I guess we can.
I'm not saying let's do it now.
No, let's do the whole thing again.
It's the what is it? It's the history of MS. It's our personal favorite MS DOS games.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we
Yes.
sort of tried to make a top 5 that if you were going to play them tomorrow would still be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So games from sort of like early 90s MS DOS era. So a lot of stuff that we've never a lot of games that we've never talked about on the show before, and a kind
Yeah.
of era of gaming that is kind of very removed from
Yes.
modern sort of stuff.
We should also say we talked for like almost an hour in that Bandcamp about the context of us playing DOS games, what they
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
how they were available. So if you never did, we kind of try to lay it out and give context for it as well.
It was a lot. It was fun. to
yeah,
do.
it was really
it's
fun.
it's really fun. A lot of different games mentioned in there, and especially for any younger listeners.
Yeah.
Because PC gaming is now just kind of runs parallel as kind of a more souped up version of console gaming, but
Yep.
there was a time where it was kind of a completely different thing, and
Yeah.
so you might enjoy a bit of a history lesson from three old farts. Anyway, that's coming out on the Bandcamp soon, so keep an eye on that. Guys, thank you very much for listening, and as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals,
My favorite console was the Atari Lynx, and the only flaw with my favorite console, the Atari Lynx, I didn't own 2 of them. My only flaw. Nah. Let me take that again.
No.
This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates. It's not optional, you have to do it. We used to go easy on it, but now you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.